We're back, guys. This is the letter M on Moody Campus Radio. I'm so happy that you're listening. You are literally my favorite people in the world. Just take a second and give yourself a nice round of applause.
All 12 of you were thrilled.
Yes, for sure. All right, the Adjustment Bureau. Thoughts? Give me thoughts.
Give you thoughts. So I thought it had really good concepts and ideas behind it, but I'm not entirely sure I overly liked the film.
Yeah, I'd say as well. I mean, I thought it was a really interesting film. It was definitely very thought-provoking. There were a couple of problems, I would say, but overall, I really liked it.
So, if I'm getting this right, you didn't think it was, like, intense enough, right?
Yeah, it wasn't enough to keep me... at the end, I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to find out what happens.
It would have been better if they had to, like, jump off a building.
Yeah.
To, you know.
Definitely. That always makes a film for me.
It's really weird watching Matt Damon in a movie that doesn't have Born in the title.
Yes.
Because, like, when he's running through the hall and the guy gets in front of him and he just stops, it's like, what are you doing, dude? Just hit him, you know? Like, seems like you can flip him over and toss him through the wall or something. But, so that part confused me. Especially since it's kind of like Bourne-esque, like he's running from somebody and they're trying to find him, kind of, you know?
Yeah, totally got way more information than he does, and, you know, just trying to...
Yeah.
Definitely kind of an underdog sort of deal.
Anytime you see a movie that reminds you of the Bourne movies, you just watch it and you're just like, I don't like this very much.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just not as good in comparison.
Salt, I watched the Bourne Supremacy. That's with Angelina Jolie. Salt, right?
Right.
Yes,
yeah, and then I watched Salt the next day, and I was just like, this is lame. Like,
that was weird, the way it ended.
I think they set up for a sequel.
I don't know if I saw that one.
Never happens. You don't need to. It's not good.
Okay, well, we'll skip over that on the letter M in the future.
Yep, for sure. So I'm just going to give you my opinion on the movie. FoxSports.com is where I go for all of my Yankees commentary. I'm a Yankees fan because the Yankees are better than whatever team you like. So that's where I go for my commentary on sports and just my advice for life. They had banner ads for the Adjustment Bureau for like a ridiculous amount of time before it came out. So I was really excited to see it because it had Matt Damon in it. And then, you know, the lady who's not nearly as good, but, you know, she's nice. So I was really excited to see it. I watched it. I think I hyped myself into liking it. And then I bought it and watched it again within like a week. And, like, it's not one of those movies that you want to watch over and over again, really. Like, I was almost disappointed that I had to watch it again for the show. But it was good the first time.
Yeah, like, I like kind of the little things in the film, like the opening of doors, like the idea behind it, but I don't think they completely filmed it as well as they could. I feel like they could have added so much to it.
Like, they had a good philosophy and a good script, but
yeah,
that's about it.
It needed something else.
Matt Damon did a good job, though.
Yeah, conceptually, definitely. I thought it was a really cool idea.
Yeah.
You mentioned the doors, Olivia. Basically, for those who haven't seen it, the Adjustment Bureau is kind of this group that goes and changes stuff, the paths people are on to make everything fit the plan, right? And they've got these, they have the ability to open a door and have it go to a different place than where the door would normally lead, and they kind of navigate this tunnel system, if you will, of wormholes or something.
We got a really cool tour in New York City when they were doing that, by the way.
It was pretty awesome. They're like from Yankee Stadium to...
I'd like to point out that was the Yankee Stadium, not the Mets field.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
And that is all that matters.
It's not all that matters, but it is a good bit of it.
Definitely brownie points,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
if you're a Yankees fan.
Okay.
If you're a fan of true baseball, which I guess is synonymous with Yankees fan. But what didn't you like about the movie, Adam? You said something while we were off air.
You know, I think there is something... The biggest thing to me about the movie is you've got this Adjustment Bureau, who is basically kind of an association of angelic creatures or something like that. Non-human, kind of higher plane beings. But it seemed like to make the film work, they had to put a bunch of arbitrary limitations on them. Like, oh, you can only do your door trick when you're wearing this hat. And, oh, if you get around water, then suddenly, like, your power, your angelic mojo gets kind of shut down. And I don't know, I mean, I can see it had to do that for the purposes of the film, or else, you know, the angelic beings, or whatever, the Adjustment Bureau, we'll call them, would have been overpowered, and no mortal person would have stood a chance against them. But at the same time, it seemed like a very arbitrary limitation. It's like, oh, so we're around water, and suddenly nothing works. So that was my biggest complaint about the film. It's just kind of an arbitrary limitation there.
Have you ever tried reading somebody's mind when you're wet? It's really hard.
It's hard when, you're perfectly dry as well.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah.
And because the film kind of has a godlike creature or a godlike object called the chairman in the film, it kind of gave a ungodlike characteristic, meaning that this god couldn't actually, the god had limitations, taking away the god attribute of the chairman, if you see what I mean. Because if it was a true god person that could like control everything, then surely they wouldn't have limitations.
Well, in the movie it did say, as far as, the godlike person with limitations, I don't think the chairman has limitations. It's just the member of his bureau. They said that the water and the hats were limitations that the chairman gave to the bureau.
Okay.
So...
Yeah. I see what you're saying, though, Olivia, where he had a lot of... one of the biggest parts of this film, it's kind of about free will, and, are we really free to choose our own destinies, really? And one of the biggest parts of the film was the Adjustment Bureau trying to get everybody back onto this major plan, right? And the plan is not written by the Bureau themselves, but by this being they call the chairman, who represents something of a deity, probably. And yeah, he writes this plan, but he rewrites it and keeps changing things and decides, well, I don't like this version of the plan as much anymore. And it's possible to go off plan as well. So, I don't know, it seems like, I guess this kind of depends on your theology as well. But it seems like the God in this story, he's subject to change. Like, he's subject to, he's not all-knowing, he's not all-powerful, because he can't prevent people from going off the plan. And he's subject to changing his mind and changing the way he thinks about things. So, it's obviously not a very Christian God.
But then in one sense, it could be like how we as Christians have free will, and so we have the choice to stay on the path that God has kind of predestined us to, or to choose to go our own separate way.
Let's talk about that for a second. Matt Damon, the movie is him trying to get off the path, right?
Yes.
And because he's Matt Damon and he's super cool, we have to root for him. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
But should he have? Right?
Gone off
Like,
the path.
should he have gone off the plan or should he have stayed on the plan? What do you guys think?
I think it's hard to say, given where the movie ends. It's hard to say, the consequences of where he ends up. Do we do spoilers here? Is that a big deal?
Oh, go for it. That's an old movie.
Spoiler on the Adjustment Bureau. Basically, in the end, Matt Damon does manage to get off the plan, and he ends up he ends up being with the Emily Blunt character, and supposedly they live happily ever after, but there's also presented with a whole bunch of scenarios why they shouldn't be together. And it's impossible to know how it turned out because the movie just kind of ends with them going off the plan.
Sequel.
A sequel, yeah, it could be. I don't know. I think that'd be hard to do.
Almost hope not.
But I don't know. It seems it's hard to say whether or not that they should have gone off the plan without seeing how it ended up. Because for all we know, they did, all the warnings that the Bureau gave them came true and ruined both of their destinies. And I don't know.
Here's the thing. They don't necessarily just straight go off the plan. They do that, but the resolution is the chairman writes a new plan. Are you guys curious to know what the new plan was? Do you think the new plan is you two get married and then you're together like you want to be, but like he said before, there will be no presidency, you're not going to be a famous ballerina, etc.? Do you think that all the warnings that they gave him kind of midway through the movie were true? Or do you think that the chairman worked out a way for them to have all of it, everything?
Or maybe they said earlier in the film that they would be satisfied. One of the guys said that they would be satisfied enough with just each other and that they wouldn't need those other things to fulfill themselves through becoming the president or through becoming a big time dancer. So maybe they now, because they know those things, that won't happen. Either they'll be satisfied with just each other, or they'll be able to find a way they'll be able to find a way that they can do both.
So it's like exercising.
Because they know about it.
Because they know that it's important, they'll do it?
Yeah.
Even though they might not really need to anymore?
Yes.
What about you, Adam?
I don't know. Honestly, I'll admit that did occur to me as well. That it is possible that they just, were able to guard against lethargy, I guess is the word you'd use, kind of an apathy towards their destinies. Because now that they're aware that there is a plan, they can try and follow it better. But it also seemed like I don't know. It's really hard to say how it turned out. As I said, the movie just kind of ends.
If you could write it, what would you write?
If I were to write it, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, I want everything to. The part of me that wants everything to turn out wonderfully would say, "Oh yeah, sure, Matt Damon goes on to become president. That'd be awesome." But I wonder if that would make for a better story if he, just doesn't, and he ends up giving up his political career, and then 30 years down the road wonders, was it worth it? It's different. It's a different kind of take on it, I guess.
I think if you look at it from you're making a sequel standpoint, they can't be happy because
you need conflict in a
yeah, there's no movie if that happens. But I think I don't know. The chairman, I think he really was supposed to be all powerful. I think the Adjustment Bureau was limited, but I think that was from the chairman. So I think he could have adjusted the plan to make them happy. But then you run into the things like, okay, they're going to be happy together, and they're going to be president and ballerina. And they keep on talking about ripples in the film. Basically, what you're doing is going to affect everybody else because we're going to have to adjust everybody else to get you to stop, So I wonder what ripples that would have caused and the effect that would have had on other people.
It's hard to say. So.
Yeah, and is it so at the end of the film it's just completely they have their own choices to make. So, and before they've given people the free will to do that and they've messed it up. So I wonder, does the chairman, this god figure, know that everything is going to be okay and that human beings are now going to choose wisely because they've taught them enough? Or
this is a pretty impressive list that they gave when they talked about, when humans had free choice and when they didn't. When they didn't, they were hunters and gatherers. The Adjustment Bureau took over. They brought us Rome, the classic golden age of Greece and Rome and all that. They backed off for a little bit. We got the Dark Ages. So then they came back and gave us the Renaissance. And then they left again, and we got the Holocaust.
And the Cuban Missile Crisis and World War I. And pretty much, all that early 20th century, late 19th century stuff. That
generally unfun things happen to us when we make our own decisions, I think. Which has a nice application if you're a Christian, because I think we've all tried to do stuff our way. And
it just doesn't work out.
No, not usually. Usually it's just bad.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've had nothing but good experiences.
There we go. A couple other things I noticed. I just want to mention these real quickly. These aren't huge themes in the movie, so we're not going to spend a ton of time on it. But David, what's his last name?
Norris.
David Norris.
Much like the great Chuck himself.
Yeah, almost. I wonder.
Probably no relation.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It seems like he would have been able to fight those guys a little bit better.
With a roundhouse kick.
Exactly. When he's running for Senate, I think it is, in the beginning of the movie, his past mistakes totally come back to haunt him. A lot of you are in college right now. Be careful what you're doing, because if you're running for the Senate and we get a full-page spread of you doing something that you shouldn't have been doing in a newspaper, we won't vote for you. Also, authenticity. He gets up to give his speech. He starts going into his spiel, and then he says, by the way, this is a lie. This is just something my marketing team came up and liked. So, but that kicked him back out in front for the next year. So, I don't know. Maybe lying's a bad thing.
Just want to say, too, on that was my favorite part of the movie is when he stands up. It's pretty early on, so, it's kind of disappointing when your favorite part of the movie is in the first 20 minutes. But he stands up and he, like Grayden was saying, he goes and he gives this great speech about, he starts off this great speech with political spiel about, it's not what you do when you get knocked down, it's what you do when you get back up and everything. He says, I never said that. That wasn't something I grew up saying. He goes on and talks about everything from the tie he's wearing to his shoes was chosen out before him by somebody else, like a marketing team. And it was a very interesting commentary on politics in general, I think. And man, there is no authenticity. Not gonna.
So was Emily Blunt's comment, the country's run by tools like Linfield.
Right.
That was interesting. I don't think that just applied to the movie. I think there was a much broader message to that.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting too. They never declared a political party for either candidate.
That's right.
Because I think they didn't really want to take sides. They didn't want to make it about that. They just wanted to make it about these cool people wearing hats that can change your destiny. But yeah, I think it's an interesting commentary on politics in general, about inauthenticity and people being the kind of people that run our country and that really run the world. So.
Yeah.
That's not intimidating at all. We're going to take a quick break for some music. I'm actually going to play you something off Anne Boleyn's CD's Cities. We're not going to get a chance to talk about this particular song later, but it's still really good if you listen to it. If you're doing homework, don't look up the lyrics. If you're not doing homework, there's some pretty great stuff, especially in the second verse. It might be worth looking at. So this is the letter M, and we will be right back. Hey guys, you're listening to the letter M on Moody Campus Radio. I'm your host. My name is Grayden McCashen. Co-hosting with me today is Adam and Olivia.
Hello, hello.
They are
Hello.
my best friends in the entire world.
Obviously.
The song you just listened to is called There Is No Mathematics to Love or Loss. It's by Anne Boleyn off their album Cities. We're going to be talking about that album a little bit about 9 o'clock. So,
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that.
yeah, it's super exciting. It's actually my favorite album.
It's actually my favorite album as well, so you're going to be in for a
Yeah.
earful about it. Be aware.
Feel free to call. Not call. Don't call us. I don't like phone calls. Just feel free to text me. Text Olivia or Adam. Facebook, the letter M. Tweet the letter M. I believe the username is the letter M on MCR. We want to hear your comments and your feedback and what you think about what we're saying. I actually have a text right here. It's from my dad. It's not about the... Never mind.
How disappointing is
Miguel
that?
Cabrera won the Triple Crown, so that's all I'm going to be hearing about while, oh well. Just pray the Tigers don't win the World Series for my sake. There's too many Detroit fans back home. So, free will, guys. Movie dealt with free will. First, Adam, how did the movie present free will? Do we actually have it or not?
Well, what the movie said, the exact term that they used was that we don't have free will, we have the appearance of free will, right? So basically what they're saying is every time that our will does not align with the plan, I'm doing air quotes, which you can't see over the air.
It is frustrating. I did that last week.
You know, it just hit me. I've been doing that every time I said the plan, and I realized nobody knows. Anyway, from here on out, when I say the plan, there are air quotes accompanying it. But basically what they said is every time our will does not align with the plan, then they come along and they adjust us, and so they kind of get us back on track. And they said basically we can make small decisions. They said what toothpaste you buy, or what beverage you drink with lunch. But at the end of the day, all major decisions are up to the Adjustment Bureau, and they're guiding basically the way the world's going for the most part. So yeah, what they said is we do not have free will. We have the illusion of free will, and that was a major theme recurring throughout the film. So.
Here's a question I have. Either of you can answer it. You mentioned the part where we can make small decisions. I don't think that works. I think we either have to have, basically free will over anything, except for maybe like one or two times, like God or the chairman has like a card that he can play out of the bottom of the deck if he absolutely has to, like maybe to avoid a nuclear war. But as far as what toothpaste you use, that could actually end up being really important, because if everybody got their own free will for toothpaste, everybody might decide to buy the same brand of toothpaste, and then all the other toothpaste companies might go out of business.
That could happen.
That could have like massive implications.
Yeah.
So, Olivia.
What would Walmart do?
Just sell the one brand.
That's true.
It would probably make it a lot easier on it because they have everything. Imagine only having to stock one brand of toothpaste.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be good.
That's true.
Be really good. So, what do you think? Can we have, as far as free will, how far can our free will go when mixed with something like fate and have both? How can they coexist? Can they coexist?
What, fate and free will? How can it coexist?
Can it?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I would say that, well, to some degree, it seems like in the film, anyway, that there was some sort of essence of fate, because in the earlier plans, the two main characters were supposed to end up together, but then the plan was changed. So in a way, they still had those feelings that their destiny was to be together. And then through the minimal free will they had, they chose to try to be together.
It was almost like the fate worked, even though, it didn't, even though it was like the wrong plan or whatever. But because it really was the plan before, fate kind of worked anyway. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even though it seems as though they went off plan, they really still were following it, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it was just the earlier plans.
It's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about that.
What about Chance? What do you guys think about Chance? They mentioned Chance. It was Chance.
But it could have been chance that the one of the Adjustment Bureau men decided, well, by chance and on accident, fell asleep. So then they met, like, on chance on the bus that he was never supposed to get on. So that could have been fate or chance that they ended up together on the bus.
Here's an interesting idea that's literally impossible to prove. So there's no wrong answer here.
Go for it.
You know how at the end of the movie, the monologue that we get at the end, what's his name? Richardson?
Yeah,
or
Richardson.
Harry. Not the angel. The Adjustment Bureau guy the agent who kind of helps Matt Damon's character out, whose name is also David Norris, because I can never remember that. But the angel, he gives a monologue at the end of the thing. He says that it's supposed to be kind of a test. The reason the chairman doesn't give us free will is because he wants us to earn it. He wants us to fight for it and stuff. So I'm assuming so we can appreciate it. I don't remember exactly. So lost my train of thought there. Harry falls asleep. Do you think that was chance, or do you think the chairman made that happen?
Oh, I see. Yeah, that could never be proved. I see what you did there.
Yeah, so you can just totally say whatever right now. There's a third chairman, and he's the one who made it happen.
There's a third chairman.
Yes, that's my
Now
official
we've got
theory.
a trinity of chairmen. I just want to point that out.
I see what you did there too.
Thank you.
I guess I would say no, that isn't true, because if that did happen, why would the chairman, if the chairman did really want them to be together, then that would have just messed up the whole plan, and then all the Adjustment Bureau agents went through all that trouble to try and keep them separated.
But it's a test. It's a test for the Adjustment Bureau agents, and it's a test for the people. And isn't it kind of convenient that the chairman just has this plan ready for them when they get to the top of the tower and they both risk everything? I actually really like my idea now. I'm sticking with it.
Well, remember as well that when Richardson, who's Harry's boss, he's kind of like, he's like the middleman in terms of the Adjustment Bureau. Like, he's the middle one you end up seeing in the film. And Richardson finds out at some point that when he finds out that Elise and David were supposed to be together, he actually goes to Harry and says, oh, it wasn't your fault, even though Harry did fall asleep and didn't prevent them from meeting. He says it wasn't your fault, it was part of the plan, an earlier version. So it seems almost like either the earlier versions still have some effect, or just like there's still some effect there that, at least in some way, the chairman was still kind of controlling it to happen.
I think it definitely has effect. I think that's almost explicitly stated in the movie, in that conversation you were talking about.
It could be.
But is it not his fault just because of that, or do you think it might have also not been his fault because the chairman makes him fall asleep? Because that guy, he was pretty good, right? I mean, he didn't seem like the kind of guy who would just fall asleep.
They even started off the film, though. They started off the film by some of the other Adjustment Bureau members telling Harry that he needed to take a vacation because he looked tired.
I was hoping no one would catch that. I thought of that, but darn it.
So I'm just saying that, of course, you could also argue that in the sovereign plan of the chairman that this was all supposed to happen. But it also seems like this is getting a little too convoluted in that now you've got the chairman adjusting the Adjustment Bureau, and when they're trying to enforce his plan, but when they go off the plan that they're trying to enforce, then I don't know. It seems like it's a little bit too mixed up and convoluted to really make sense in the sense of the story. So I'm going to disagree with your theory.
But then, if I kind of agree with Grayden,
Boom.
if it was a test for the Adjustment Bureau people, then it's kind of testing their faith and their loyalty to the chairman, because when he does decide to change the plan, they then can choose whether they agree with that, agree with the change, and agree with the fact. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. It seems to me, though, if they're going to test the Adjustment Bureau, there was never any question that they're trying to stay on plan. It seems like if you're going to test the Adjustment Bureau, it's, if anything, it tested their competency.
But then
Definitely tested the
kind
competency.
of a test of them staying to keep the other people on the plan, because that one guy, Harry, didn't stay on the plan and decided to help Matt Damon.
That's also true. I hadn't thought about that.
I think we got you.
You do. You got me in a corner
We win.
now.
It's really nice too because they never even addressed this issue at all. So I doubt the director even thought about it. But
You never know.
yeah.
Harry kind of helps Matt Damon out. For anyone who hasn't seen the film and may be lost, Harry helps Matt Damon out. Tries to helps him avoid the Adjustment Bureau's capture. Teaches him to use the door portal thing, and then even though he helped these two get off plan, at the end he still comes in and says, "Oh, the chairman has a new plan for you guys," and kind of causes everyone else to back off, which really implies that there is no repercussions for Harry whatsoever. So I don't know. It does seem like that might be the case. I don't know. I'm still not completely sold on the theory, but I can see where you're coming from at least.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about emotion versus reason. Another huge theme. There's a lot of Greek themes in this movie, I think. Like the idea of fate's huge in Homer. I feel like the balance, at least between reason and emotion, especially in Greek philosophy, that was kind of important. So, your thoughts. Obviously, it's like scary how straightforward. I have a quote written down, but I will try to find. My handwriting's like really, really bad. Richardson explicitly says it's not about what you feel, it's about what's in black and white, it's about the plan, right? It's not even so much reason for them, it's just, the plan. The plan is everything. And by the way, I tried really hard to figure out how to read that thing, and I can't. So.
Oh, like their plan book?
Yeah, like the GPS.
Yeah, it was confusing. I think it was intentionally confusing because they didn't want anyone to figure it. It was. I think if they came up with an actual system, it would have seemed too simplistic. So they just made something ridiculously complex and just said, "This looks good enough."
If I was going to talk about emotion and reason, I would base it quite biblically myself, because personally I think that it shows kind of how much us as human beings live for our emotions and how much we let that affect our life. Like his emotions are overtaking the fact that it is not in the chairman's plan. His emotions are overtaking that, and he's going for, I need to be with her. So he's basing everything he knows on emotion because it feels right, he said. If this feels so right, how come it's not,
Yeah.
So right. I would say that leads to like us as human beings like living off our emotions. So we must most trust God and most have faith in God when it feels right, if you see what I mean.
Absolutely.
Yes. Kind of about trusting in God despite the fact that it doesn't always feel right.
I think there you get into one of the Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, did I?
No, don't worry.
I was just going to say, I think there you get into one of the theological issues with the film.
Yeah.
Obviously this film's not meant to be about the true God. But you get into one of the theological issues of the film when you start to say, oh, well, if you just fight hard enough for your love and for what you feel is right, then it will be right in the end.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's just not true. What we feel does not necessarily equate to what is right. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes what we feel is deceitful. So, I don't know. I think that's a really important point to bring up, so thank you for that.
It's like a deep fried Oreo, I think.
Oh, mm-hmm.
It's hard to eat a deep fried Oreo and not think that it's wrong in some way, I mean, it's hard to think that it's wrong. It's just like, if you've never had a deep fried Oreo, just imagine.
I have never had a deep fried Oreo.
Really? I'm sorry.
I'm British.
You don't have deep fried Oreos in Britain?
Never.
America's better. So, it's hard to eat a deep fried Oreo. Have you had a deep fried Oreo, Adam?
I'm ashamed to say that I have.
Yeah. Yeah, did you want 7 more when you were done with the first one?
I think I might have.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of years now.
So how are they exactly deep fried?
You take an Oreo, and then you drop it into a vat of boiling grease. Pretty much the same way you deep fry anything.
So you don't cover it in anything? It's just fried?
I don't know. It might be.
It's cake batter.
Oh,
okay. Is it
cake batter? Something like that.
I don't know. It's fair food. You buy it at a fair.
The point is, it is
Ew.
spectacular. It's heavenly. It is delicious. It is just pristine in every possible way. And you eat it and you swallow it and you think, that felt so good. That felt right, And then a half hour later, you're in the ER getting your stomach pumped because guess what? They don't clean those deep frying things very often. They did the French fries in that earlier, and there's bacteria in it. So sorry about that.
Good thing dinner was a few hours ago because I think we would all have lost our appetite after that story. Thank you, Grayden.
Yeah, Or
Yeah, that was an excellent analogy of what the film was about.
do you guys actually walk into the SDR with an appetite?
Cool, you guys. SDR commentary. Just the next step in the letter M.
Yes. We'll do a food
review.
We'll review a cooking show sometime. All right, so obviously emotions huge. Matt Damon goes with his emotions. I don't really think he should have. I mean, it was just a girl, and she didn't seem that smart anyway. So.
Oh.
What?
You don't like Emily Blunt? She's British.
She is British, but you know she crashed a wedding.
She was also in Romeo and Juliet, and I have never forgiven her for that.
Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
That animated one?
Yes, that's the one.
Was she smart in that one?
Does she have to be smart?
Oh, I mean, it helps.
Okay.
Well, it's loosely based on Romeo and Juliet, except with garden gnomes.
Uh-huh.
And did you ever read Romeo and Juliet in high school?
Awful.
Yeah, it was terrible. I only watched it because I had to.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I stood there and watched about half of it at Walmart once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you don't want to rent something, just
that
go to Walmart.
enthralled, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That bored, actually.
In any case, the answer to your question is no, she was not. Juliet is not smart in Romeo and Juliet because she's just like, I'm 14, I've met this guy once, I'm in love with him, oh no, I'm going to kill myself. That's a spoiler if you haven't read Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. Or seen Romeo and Juliet, which I wanted to, and thank you.
So what's your issue with the characters? Because I know you've said that you like Matt Damon in the film, but you're not the biggest fan of Emily Blunt.
I don't know. I like Matt Damon just because he's such a good actor. You know, like he was really passionate about it, and honestly, especially when you consider that it actually was right, like it didn't just feel right. It was in the plan. You know, the earlier plans. I like that he went against. Here's the thing. Christians have a problem with this movie because they view the chairman as God. He's not supposed to be like that. Wasn't Jesus, okay? So I like that he went against this obscure, really hardcore, follow the plan type thing. It's probably indicative of something wrong in my own heart, but you know, so he went against the man. It's more like if you think about it, it like the architecture and everything. It wasn't heavenly, it was more like a government office.
Right.
So it was more like he was
more
rebelling.
about a really powerful source kind of thing from above rather than a god.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Because the power that Parliament have kind of thing.
Yeah, it was more of a... But I think they shaped it to make you think more he was rebelling against a government.
Yeah.
Versus rebelling against a deity, Especially some of the guys you brought up, like the angels, quote unquote, the agents. They have I did the quote fingers too. Sorry about that. They have like the hats and all the weird restrictions and stuff that it's arbitrary and stuff like that. But and they're not immortal. That's another thing I noticed. They fall asleep and all that, and I don't.
They're physical beings, not spiritual ones.
Yeah, exactly. So given that context, that if you separate it from he's rebelling against God, the fact that he's rebelling against just this force, this abstract impersonal thing that's just trying to manipulate him, and really does manipulate him. Like the one angel lies. I hate that I keep on calling it angel after I specifically said they weren't.
Agent.
That one agent lies to him on a number of occasions, and then his friend agent Harry, right? Harry kind of comes and is like, yeah, what we told you is totally not true. So I kind of like that he's passionate and rebels against that. Emily Blunt, her character, what's her name? Elise?
Elise, yeah.
Elise.
She, I don't know. She's nice-ish. She's kind of pretty. She seemed like really flirty to me, which, I guess if you're going to meet somebody and fall in love with them in like 2 seconds, they have to be a little bit forward. But and then the dancing stuff, and she just kind of panicked a lot at the end there, like just standing there in a shock, which if you're ever in a movie, don't stand there in a shock, like do something.
But then, do you not think you would be shocked if you just found out that there were like worm tunnels through the city? Well,
I think that's a pretty convincing argument to just do whatever the guy says, Like, obviously, like, why stand there and demand an explanation? Like, he says somebody's after you. He just proved it with the tunnels.
I think that's a great time to stop and say what's going on. Like, if you go through a door and suddenly you're in Yankee Stadium when you were in a courthouse just a second before, it's probably a good reason to start questioning things, like your own sanity.
Well, yeah, maybe. But at the same time, you probably got to get out of there. I mean, he's
Yeah,
acting
probably
like
true.
it's really urgent. So
He was also acting like a maniac.
yeah, that's true too.
I wouldn't have gone with him.
I don't
So
know.
what did you think of Elise then?
Personally, I thought Elise was very much. Her character was more of a means to an end. I mean, obviously, the movie was more about Matt Damon's character. Elise was kind of. I don't want to call her a two-dimensional character because she had some character development, but more than anything, she was. Her whole purpose was to cause Matt Damon to start questioning the plan. Like that was the whole reason that she was in the movie. Was she was a plot device to get him off the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I thought she was actually a really good character. I liked her for what she was, but she definitely didn't have nearly as deep a character development as, say, David did. So,
I think that's true. Now that you said it that way, it makes me less irritated with her.
Was it just the girly freak out and panic that she had that just annoyed you?
Kind of, yeah. The overall, I don't know. I guess she didn't have that aspect of purity that a lot of really good, kind of like...
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't like this innocent... She wasn't like that innocent, sweet kind of girl, really. So, I guess that wasn't quite as appealing.
but if they were going to make him fall for her in 2 seconds, like you yourself said, then there's got to be something that stands out about
A little
her.
bit
And
more
they decided
forward.
to make. Yeah, they decided that she would be very blunt, very forward, very kind of
And that really appealed
devil
to
may
him.
care. Yeah, kind of spontaneous is the word they kept using. Like he was very impulsive.
And it did say that she brought out sides in himself that he didn't realise, like his fun side.
When they went to the dance.
Yeah.
Spontaneity.
Yeah.
Very much. Very much like she. If they were gonna play that off, she had to be kind of different. Like she couldn't be just a sweet down home country girl. Ladies, that will work. So don't get any ideas. I've silenced Grayden. That's
When you actually like turned in the microphone like you just did, it
Got really
came
loud.
through a lot clearer.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I will start talking more into the mic then.
Maybe we should be closer to our mics too.
Yeah.
There we go.
New radio show. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. This is my second time. I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one. I didn't know that being close to the mic helped.
Who knew, right?
No way to
Crazy.
know that.
Right, should we skip to a song and...
Yeah, we're gonna play a song. We're gonna come back and give you a quick summary of the movie, and then we are going to talk about Anberlin's CD Cities. I'm gonna play you another song from Cities. This one is called Adelaide. We are back on the letter M on MCR. I'm Grayden McCashen. I'm here with Olivia and Adam. We're just going to wrap up the movie part of the show. After that, we're going to talk about Anberlin CD Cities. But I just want to say something real quick. Obviously, there are spiritual themes in here, you know, not necessarily predestination, but fate versus free choice, free will, and all that stuff, and chance and things like that. You could use that to maybe get a conversation started. You can use that to kind of as a wake-up call for your own life. Like I was saying, I read Proverbs, and it basically said there is a chairman, and he does have a plan for your life. And you can try to go against it a little bit, but guess what? God kind of has the last word in that. So you can use that to take comfort from it. I would recommend against completely rebelling against God's plan. I think that's usually a bad idea. So, but one more thing. This is more for evangelistic purposes. If you were going to use this movie to start a conversation, there's not a lot in here that I think applies directly to it. Maybe you could work around, you know, and get there eventually if you're really smart. But the one thing that really stuck out to me, that, you know, as far as if you're going to actually use this to bring a non-Christian closer to Christ or to start a conversation with somebody who doesn't know God, what was his name? The Hammer. What was his...
Thompson.
Thompson. You're so good with names.
Thank you.
I'm not. So Thompson, he comes up to David. This is the thing that they have to use to like totally get him to stop, right? To get him to stop chasing Elise. He says, you know, she's going to get hurt. She's going to give up her ballerina stuff. You're not going to be able to become president. He basically says, all your dreams, everything you've worked for, it's all gone if you go after Elise. So then a little bit later, Harry comes and he says, you know what Thompson said isn't exactly true. This is the real problem. This is why they don't want you with Elise. You have a void inside of you. I think he actually used that term. Right now, you fill it with drawing applause from crowds, with your politics, with your fire through that. That's what fills you up. That's what takes care of the void in your life. And if you have Elise, she will fill that void in your life, and you won't need the politics anymore. So just stop and think about that from just based on the movie. He has a void in his life. That's a given. Supposedly politics is supposed to fill that void for him, but you notice at the end of, he lost the election for one thing, so politics wasn't actually working out for him that well, even though he seemed to be back in it. He was, just working some job that he didn't seem too enthusiastic about, so it doesn't look like politics was actually there to fill that void in his life. And like they said, he was impulsive. His friend said, every time we get close, you do something to mess it up, okay? So just from that, it looks like anything that we try to do to fill, quote unquote, the void in our life, it doesn't usually work. I know I've tried several things in the past. For a while, it was my GPA. Community college, had a 4.0, 2 years in high school. I was fairly impressed with myself. I get here at Dr. Marty's class, 97% for an A, and guess what? The quizzes are ridiculous. So good luck with that. So that's one of the things that I think I was kind of trying to use to fill the void, and guess what? It's not going to work out. So for Matt Damon, for his character at least, it was politics. For you, it might be your career, your grades, your MCR program, something like that, something that you use to try to fill the void in your life, and it's going to end badly for you, okay? Like, the more stock you put in it, just don't do it, all right? It's not going to be good. The second thing, other people. Can I put you on the spot?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Have either of you had a boyfriend or girlfriend?
I have indeed.
That's a hard question to answer.
You have. Okay. I think it's easy in those kinds of relationships to let them be the person that fills the void in your life.
So true.
And I'm assuming you've both broken up with a boyfriend or girlfriend at some point in your life?
Yes.
That's a hard question to answer.
Did it feel like the void? Did you feel like you had a void?
Absolutely.
I think it's just difficult because, especially if you've been in a long-term relationship, they are kind of what you tend to rely on instead of God. Like, they do become, you kind of idolize them in a little way and hold them on a pillar that they're not worthy of, because the only person that should be held higher than yourself, in that kind of sense, should be God, and you should hold God at the center of your life. And I think that's the difficult thing, because once you start relying on each other, then you're no longer relying on God, and you take comfort in them, but it doesn't completely satisfy.
Exactly. And as far as David and Elise go, do you think that's going to end well? I know we were talking about it in the music break.
Yeah, that is the difference, isn't it? If we're using this film for a sense of evangelism, they're teaching that the only thing that can fill the void is their love. And in a way, like Christianity, the only thing that can fill our void is love, but a different kind of love, not a romantic love, a love between us and God, a relationship between us and Jesus.
I would also say to that, in my experience, which has not come from personal experience, thankfully, but a whirlwind romance like that always tends to flame out just as fast as it started. In terms of David and Elise, in that situation, I would say that most likely maybe they are fulfilling each other now, like maybe the void is filled now, but they don't really know each other that well at the end of the day, and maybe they get lucky and things work out, but in my experience, a relationship like that is kind of doomed to fail.
And also, with the fact that then they don't fulfill the things they want to in life, do you not think that then maybe they would end up resenting each other?
A little bit.
For not getting anything achieved, only having each other.
I'd like to point out, Elise has a fiance. Maybe she goes back to him.
Yeah, I'd like to point out she left him at the altar to go run through crazy door tunnels with David.
Wasn't an altar, it was
crazy door tunnels.
Crazy. Alright, here's the point. Everybody hurts. Everybody wants the pain to go away. Everybody feels like this urge, this desire to do something. It's weird. If you listen to poppy music, they'll get really passionate about really weird things, Like, they're using stuff to fill the void, and you're like, really? You wrote a song about a rabbit? And you were passionate about it. So there's no song about a rabbit. Don't fact check that. But the point is, you need to realize everybody that you know who's not a Christian has that void in their life, and they all want it filled. They're not it's not natural for us to go to God. Like, David didn't go to the chairman and have, ask the chairman what to do or ask the chairman to love him or anything like that. Not that the chairman necessarily would have, but just keep in mind that the people that you're witnessing to, the people that you're loving and trying to serve and bring closer to God, they have other gods right now. And you need to very gently point out to them how that is going to end. And honestly, it's not going to end well for them. So, yeah.
Because those things satisfy us in the immediate time, but not in the long term.
Exactly. So it's not part of God's plan for those things to satisfy us. I think God gives us, that brief moment of satisfaction just so we know that we need it,
Mm-hmm.
Like, just to give us a little bit of hope. And then ultimately, if you were listening last week from the Hunger Games, our hope is supposed to be God. It's not supposed to be us or another person. So we're going to say goodbye to Olivia. Thank you for coming.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to stop by and give comments or whatever,
Okay.
we would love to have you.
Yeah, I'd love to come again.
If you would like, I'm talking to my microphone now. I pointed at it, but obviously you didn't see that. If you would like to comment or...
Yeah, don't forget it's a radio show.
Yeah, just text, Facebook, Twitter, something like that, and we'll get your comments on here. Maybe you want to guest star on a radio show, something like that. That would be fantastic. We're going to take a quick break. We are going to actually play the first song from Andrew and CD Cities. We're going to talk about that song and the rest of the CD when we come back. So, I'm really bad at these, outro things. Hang in there.
So
yeah.
here we go.
Here we go. Hey guys, this is MCR. You're listening to the letter M. I'm your host, Grayden McCashen. I have Adam in the studio with me today. My regular co-host, Ferro, he couldn't be here. He is in the Spoon Rivers anthology here at Moody Bible Institute. It goes on tomorrow evening. There are posters all over the place. You walk by any, bulletin board, you'll be able to see when that is, what that's about, and all that. It sounds super fun. I definitely encourage you to go. So the song you just listened to is called Godspeed. It is by the band Andrelin. It used to be my favorite song on the album. It's just musically, I absolutely love it. So Adam, I know you had some stuff that you really were anxious to say about this particular.
Right. As I said earlier, Godspeed, or not Godspeed, but Cities is actually my favorite album, and it's also by my favorite band. So I've got a lot to say about it, but for the interest of time, we're going to cut it kind of short. Godspeed, though, if you look through the lyrics and you look through what they meant when they were writing it, Godspeed is full of references to kind of a pop star mentality, lots of musicians. It talks about a lot of musicians who have died young deaths, who have lived fast and lived hard because of this kind of mentality that they are almost godlike, and if you look at apparently in the original single release of this song, you had God in parentheses followed by speed immediately, talking about how a lot of musicians worship drugs, is what it's talking about.
I'm actually really glad you pointed that out because I never saw the single.
So it's like what the idea is. Well, that was on. I found that out through the internet actually. So if it's on the internet, it's true. We all know that.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so basically, it fits with the lyrics though, so I think it works out. But basically, the whole idea is that a lot of musicians will worship. They'll worship drugs or they'll worship something else. And I mean, you've got one of my favorite lines that talks about how she's still asleep in the Chelsea Hotel, which is a reference to a singer called Nico who overdosed on heroin, I believe it was, in the Chelsea Hotel. And pretty much every line is a reference to something like that. Grayden, you had something else you wanted to say along those lines?
Yeah, like Adam said, it's basically, living really fast, on, I guess, speed, basically, is a bad idea. Like I said, I absolutely love the music of the whole thing. That guitar solo I think is really super sweet. I love the fact that it starts out like an explosion of whatever they happen to be. It's like all the instruments just go right off the bat.
Right.
Lyrically, especially for you, if you're going to apply this to your life, obviously don't do drugs, stay in school. Your God should not be speed. I'm so glad you saw that. That's a good
it's
catch.
pretty fantastic. I
Yeah.
thought that was really clever when I found that out.
I thought it was a random name. Like, they just pulled out a word from the song that sounded cool and made that for the title. But, yeah. One thing, obviously, especially at Moody, there's not a lot of us who do that. There's not a lot of us who are struggling with that. I'm personally not a rock star, although about 3 or 4 times a week I plan on dropping school and becoming one. Gotta learn an instrument first. That's a problem. But the one line I really, really love in this song, to start out the second verse, they say "burning down Neverland." I guess that's in the first verse.
Second. Is it the first?
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah. Anyway, and then "scatter the ashes." That's just a really good reminder. You should be growing up by now, right? I mean,
absolutely.
We're in college, so still play video games. Maybe you burn down the video game console and scatter the ashes all over the place. Nothing against video games, except for they're a waste of time.
I don't even know if that's where it's going, though. I might even disagree, if I may.
Really?
Well, I mean, it's definitely a reference to, grow up. But the whole idea of burning down Neverland is like it's kind of rejecting. It's very much rejecting this idea of we are forever young. It's like, no, you are an adult, get some responsibility. But I don't necessarily, I don't think that means you should go burn down your local GameStop.
Do you like video games, Adam?
Not especially, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Surprise, surprise.
Cool. But you get the point of the song. That's just one of the songs that we absolutely had to have. Not as directly applicable to you as we would have liked, but still a really great song.
If I could point out, too, really quick, that I don't know if we talked about Anne Boleyn at all, but if you don't know them, they are not technically a Christian band. Like, they reject that label. They do not sing songs about Jesus. They do not sing songs directly to God, at least not explicitly. But every member of the band is Christian, from what I'm told and what I've read about them and from them. Of course, as we all know, Christian can be nominal. I like to think it's not, just because I love this band.
Yes.
We like to idolize our heroes, and that goes for me. But yeah, so even though they're not a overtly Christian band, you will see in their lyrics and in their music there are a lot of Christian philosophies and a lot of Christian themes. And so, yeah, Grayden, you're gonna...
That in and of itself, it could be an interesting commentary, since we didn't give you a lot to apply to your life for this song. That could be an interesting commentary on how you want to do ministry. A lot of us at Moody, we assume, we're at Moody Bible Institute, we need to be pastors, we need to be missionaries, we need to, do something like that. But if you can do something well and point to God, I see no problem with joining the secular market, whether you're a musician or a teacher or anything like that. I actually think we need worship bands, but we also need bands that serve more of as a missionary band, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I was going to kind of add on to that.
Absolutely. Go for it.
I don't know how many of you guys who are listening went to the What's Life Like After Moody kind of panel that they had in Joe's. I think it was on Thursday or Friday. And one of the guys they had a bunch of Moody alums come back, and one guy was working as like a real estate agent, one was working with in the secular entertainment industry. But basically what they were both saying, even the ones that were not directly involved with ministry, is like, even though my job title is not pastor, like, I am still serving Jesus in what I do. Like, I serve Jesus by, treating people well with my real estate. I serve Jesus by electing to be above reproach in the entertainment industry, which is just full of sin and full of depravity. And I think that what Grayden's getting at, it's a very good point, is that wherever we are involved in ministry, even if our job title is not pastor or children's ministry coordinator.
Or Christian band.
Right, absolutely.
So we're going to play a next song for you. It's called A Whisper and a Clamor. I think this is actually my current favorite song on the CD. I'll listen to it a little bit and let you know later. But here we go. I love that outro. We played the whole thing for you. Usually we probably fade it out, but that outro was amazing. All right, real quick. In case you haven't taken several lawnmower rides to meditate on this song, we don't have a lot of time to get into everything like we kind of wish we could. But here's what I think this song is saying, and I'm actually pretty confident about this. And me and Adam just had a consensus over while you were listening. So basically, especially as Christians, I think this is one of the songs that they were intentionally, overtly, maybe not overtly, but they were Christian in it. They did have very specific intentions. I did that. We need to have an indication on Facebook or something.
Ding,
Yeah. Okay, but here's what the song says, and this is actually probably going to be really important to you when you get senioritis. You guys realize senioritis at Moody, you can never stop studying the Bible. Like, it's a problem when you do that. So complacency is a huge problem in the Christian life.
Absolutely.
And like, just because you're at Bible college, I would argue that you have to watch out for it even more because you're around it all the time, every day.
Absolutely.
So the song is basically a call for you to get off your butt, for you to get excited, and for you to start doing something, I think. And it's doesn't say about God, but if you look at the Old English language in the chorus, like you said in the break,
clap your hands, all ye children.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about, I think when people in a secular world think about the Bible or they think about God, they think about King James. I mean, I know I did before I actually got my own Bible, and I said, where are the these and thous, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how people see the Bible. You look at any worldly enactment from the Bible. I mean, not that I recommend you watch such a movie, but something like Pulp Fiction or the Book of Eli, it's always King James, you know? And so this very well, when they talk about ye children, they use this kind of Old English kind of word rather. They're definitely drawing they're drawing something biblical to mind.
For sure. And just two things I want to hit on really fast before we go to the next song. Two questions that are great if you have a friend who's listening to this who you know likes Anberlin, because like we said, they don't market themselves as a Christian band. So if you happen to know a friend who's not a Christian who loves Anberlin, two questions at the end of the second verse. Are you safe from yourself? Like, do you think about it for a second? Do you actually like yourself? I had like one of those moments where I think God kind of, I don't want to say spoke to me because that makes it sound like I heard it out loud, but I didn't.
The word of the Lord that he spoke to Grayden McCashen.
Yeah, this is going in the Bible, everybody. That's not true. But I was just walking on my way to class, I think it was, and I had a thought about somebody, and I just realized it was like the Holy Spirit spoke to me and was like, hey, jerk, why don't you knock that off? You know, like, that was really mean. Like, I'm a bad person, you know? And then, so I'd say, no, you're not safe from yourself. I'd say, if you want to know who messed up your life, you should get a mirror out. And then the next song, can you escape all by yourself? Did I say song? I meant line.
Yeah, the next line in the song. I think
the next line in the song. Yeah, can you escape all by yourself? So are you safe from yourself? The answer should be no. And can you escape all by yourself? Well, if you're not even safe from yourself, can you save yourself from yourself? Probably not.
The obvious answer is no, because we live in a fallen world. We live with fallen sin natures. So we're not safe from our own selves. We can't escape this by ourselves. We need somebody. We're looking for something. We are yearning for somebody to come and save us, to get us out of this.
Exactly.
So,
we need somebody to fill the void.
Whisper and a Clamor, fantastic song.
One more thing. Before we wrap up, I'm just going to say this, then we're going to go to my absolute favorite song on the album, The Unwinding Cable Car. In the bridge, you notice with the really nice acoustics before they kind of made it intense again, it's not the lies that you sing, but what the silence will scream. I think a lot of people are all right with forgiving your mistakes. I think maybe there's some people that are harsh with you and like, oh, you're a Christian, yet you mess up. But I think a lot of people, they're willing to look past some stuff. And I think what speaks to them more than you messing up and, you know, telling a lie, having a bad day, snapping at somebody, you know, if you let a swear word slip or something like that. I think what is a worse witness than that, not that those things aren't bad, but what really, really gets to them is when you're silent about your faith. You know, like if you never say anything ever about it, how often do you do that about something that's important to you? So it's something to keep in mind, right? Like your actions, they speak louder than your words, but I think the absence of words says quite a bit too. So this song is called The Unwinding Cable Car. This is the letter M on MCR. I'm Grayden McCashen. I'm with Adam today.
That's right, you are.
Yep.
That was The Unwinding Cable Car off of Anberlin's album Cities, which is a personal favorite of both of us.
Absolutely. I honestly, there's those two songs and one other song that might be my favorite song, but I doubt you even care. So, Adam, thoughts on the song?
On The Unwinding Cable Car, it's an interesting song. This is actually one of the songs on the album after Finn, which caps it, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But this is one that I had a really hard time understanding the lyrics to for a very long time. My eventual conclusion on it is that I believe it's kind of about like it's about being grateful for where you're at. You know, it talks about like you know, you've forgotten to look at the prayers that have already come about. You know, you're so self-absorbed. You seem to ignore the prayers that have already come about, is the exact line. And it talks about how, man, like we are in a place, a lot of us are in a place of such gratitude where we should be so grateful for where we are and what we have. But so many people are so unhappy and so discontent and so all about the next big thing, like what comes next, what's the next step in my life, what is the next thing that's back to the theme of fulfillment, kind of what we were talking about in Adjustment Bureau, like what's the thing that's going to fulfill me, like where am I going to go from here, like what am I going to get. So that's kind of my take on the song. And I think, I mean, I didn't like this song at first, partially because I didn't understand it, but like Grayden said, it's become I think one of the better songs in the album in my eyes. So Grayden, did you?
Yeah, I had some comments on it too. I completely agree with what Adam said. I just want to shift the emphasis a little bit. This is where my mind went after thinking about it for a while. First of all, I think the lyrics are spectacular, like the imagery and everything in it. I think if you are a worship pastor, worship leader, worship writer, anything like that, you would be well served to follow examples like this. Like, I was thinking about some of the hymns today that we were singing. We don't have a lot of songs that are that complex and with that good of imagery and everything. So just you can appreciate the lyrics just from an artistic standpoint, I think. But also, I agree with what you said about, you know, we're ungrateful and we forget about, you know, the line in the chorus, "Don't soon forget," or is that the bridge?
Yeah, that's the bridge. And it talks about "Don't soon forget," and it talks about "Grace has marked your heart."
Yeah. So I think that's it. But I also think a good way to use this might be with somebody who's not a Christian. You know, it outlines basically all the problems that somebody could have, unstable emotions, out of control with the cable car. If you unwind a cable car, it doesn't end well for anybody. I actually used this song as a title for a paper that I wrote in community college and found an article online about a cable car, like a literal cable car that unwound and killed like 4 people. So, obviously, that's a pretty powerful metaphor there. It talks about your choices and how they tend to define you, whether that's, you know, actually defining you or at least they define you in other people's eyes. You've ignored your prayers that have already come about. That could be like you've ignored what God's already done for you. Maybe you had faith and then you kind of lost it, you know, depending on what your views are on that. Maybe at least you thought you had faith and you lost it. And then obviously there's a stuff about the problem of pain. I choose to believe that was a very intentional C.S. Lewis reference, but that's just because C.S. Lewis and Amberlin are my 2 favorite things in the world. So
we have no evidence, but we noticed the lyric "problem of pain" and decided this is a C.S. Lewis reference. So if you have evidence to prove us wrong, we're going to choose to ignore you anyway.
Yeah, we're going to delete that tweet.
We're going to delete that tweet and you know, untag that Facebook post and basically create our own reality.
We will do everything we can to bury your comment. Just don't burst our bubble.
Not really.
All right, we're happy about that. No, really.
Okay, Grayden is serious. I'm only half serious.
Yes.
It's one of those things where you're half joking and you're half like, seriously, if you do this, I'll hate you forever.
Yeah. I might not retaliate, but I'm going to be really upset about it.
You know.
So then, obviously, at the end, we have "You're so brilliant, don't soon forget." That grace has marked your heart. So that's pretty powerful. And I also love that they don't finish the chorus the first, like, 2 or 3 times they sing it. They say, you know, the stuff about salvation and love, I guess that's not plural. The great line that I really like in it is "Don't drop your arms." You could take that in a lot of different ways. Like, you have your arms up reaching for help, and you're saying don't stop asking God for help. You could say,
like a boxing metaphor where, like, you got to keep your arms up too. You know, you got to guard yourself.
Exactly.
But it's interesting because in that reference, because the very next line is "I'll guard your heart," not "you guard your own heart." You know,
these lyrics are so good.
They're so good.
So good. Another one I thought, no, wait, I think that was it.
Oh, sorry, did I steal your thunder?
No, I thought I had another one. We don't have time.
Yeah, we are kind of running.
But I love how he ends the chorus, or he actually finishes the chorus when at the part where he's talking about grace, and then he says that, you know, the narrator, whoever's speaking, I personally think, at least for the chorus, that this is God talking to a person, that he can bring you in and out of the dark. So, again, everybody hurts. Everybody has pain. The problem of pain, I don't think pain is so much a problem, like how could God do this to us? But I think the real problem of pain is that we have pain and we need to get rid of it. Okay, so this song basically says, and again, this is why it's a good evangelistic tool. Somebody could listen to this and not see it that way, and then you could kind of come alongside of them and maybe push them in the right direction a little bit. You could define who the I, it says I in the chorus a few times. You could define who that could be for them. And I just think that would be helpful.
Can I just throw in there, right, too? Grayden actually just thought about this as you were talking, but about the problem of pain being such a major theme in this song. Actually, I've been reading through Job a little bit recently, and what's that?
Not to cut you off or anything, but Hello Alone's the next song. So
okay, just going to say this really quick.
Okay,
and then we can translate into that. But yeah, like I've been reading through Job a lot recently, and in the second chapter of Job, I mean, this is the point where Job has lost everything right before his worthless friends come in and start berating him for being in a terrible situation. But he says, shall we not accept good things from God and not accept evil also? And it's like Grayden was saying, like the problem of pain isn't necessarily that there is pain, but it's what we do with it. And I think in a lot of ways it's about like praising God in all circumstances. Hello Alone is next, and I am really excited about that one.
It's a lot of stuff about pain in this one. So
it's true. So
keep
good
for
the
a
Job
rainy
metaphor
day.
in mind.
Absolutely.
And we're back. I'm Adam Loomis here with Grayden McCashen on the letter M. And that was Hello Alone. And I have to say that when we were deciding what songs, because we couldn't talk about all the songs in this album, which is just too long, too much great music, too much to say about it, and not nearly enough time. When we were deciding which ones to cut, I had to say I wanted to cut this one because I thought if any song would get us in trouble, it would be this one.
There are some very, very, very intense metaphors on this song.
Very vivid imagery.
And, suicide's kind of an intense thing, though. Where I'm from, we've actually had, we've had some kids actually do that pretty recently within the past year. So this is a song, especially hearing it again, haven't really listened to it that often lately, but I think, if anything, this song tells us how bad people actually hurt. This is a huge theme on this album, as far as struggling with sin and then also struggling with pain and depression and stuff like that. And I realize how hell can be a powerful motivating factor in evangelism. I think it's supposed to be a powerful motivating factor in evangelism. But I think you also need to realize, and like, even if hell didn't exist, you have to realize people hurt. They really do. There are people who feel like this every day. Like, if they could just get 10 more cents, obviously, I think that's probably a symbolic lyric to say, if I could just get a little bit more nerve, or if I had the opportunity or something, I would.
Right, Grayden's talking about the line. There's a line in the bridge that says, "I've got the gun. All I need is 10 cents for the bullet," which is a really harsh line, and it seems, I don't know. You've got to look at that in the greater context of the song, because it's really easy to just look at that and be like, "Oh, he's advocating suicide." But I mean, I don't think that's at all what this song is about. But definitely, it's definitely talking about pain. Back on that whole thing, like we were talking about last time with the unwinding cable car, and what he's talking about like, how when you're depressed you feel so alone, like through the chorus it echoes hello, hello, and then it echoes alone, alone.
It's amazing how they did that too.
Right.
So smart with it actually sounds like an echo.
Right, it does. And I mean, at the end of the song, like before we get ourselves thrown off the air, at the end of the song it does come out and says like, there's hope. It is a hopeful song, but it's also a very bare, very real and raw song about depression and about just about this problem of pain and about this very real issue of being depressed and feeling like you're all alone, and that there is no hope, and there is no one around, and there is no redemption from it.
You might apply the line from A Whisper and a Clamor about the silent screaming in this context too. Like,
right.
Not only do they need, I guess you would associate silence with loneliness and stuff like that, and they need somebody to speak into their lives and to tell them where there is hope, because the song doesn't actually do that. I understand why they didn't, but I almost wish they had, because there's just at the very end of the song those barely audible lines, "There's hope," and then it repeats, "There's hope," and it says "from a lesser known." I'm assuming that's God, but there's really no way to
You can't back that up. There's no proof, no empirical evidence for it.
You wouldn't
have to
just
kind of know
get that, you know.
You have to kind of know the band and know, oh yeah, they are coming from a Christian point of view, you know. And you could even make an interesting commentary about how they talk about there's hope coming from the lesser knowns, being that God should not be lesser known, and we need to make him more known, so that we don't have an instance of somebody needing 10 cents for the bullet, you know.
If you had posted that on Facebook, I would have clicked the like button. That was a good observation.
Thank you.
I like that.
I just came up with that on the spot. Can you believe it?
That was good.
Thank you.
That was really good.
I'm a natural at this.
So, summary. Again, people hurt. They can't do anything about it. They need... You know there's hope, right?
Right.
And you know that they need hope.
Right.
And you know that the silence is kind of screaming that there's not any hope, okay?
Right.
So maybe you should say something.
Absolutely. I want to say, too, just on the album as a whole at this point, that, I don't know, I'm just going to take a quick detour because I don't know if we're going to have time later and I want to say this. But this is Anvil's third album called Cities. It comes after their second album, Never Take Friendship Personal, and their first album, Blueprints for the Black Market. And how they describe those three are like the three major conflicts in literature. So you've got their first album they called Man versus World. Second album they called Man versus Man. This one they talk about man versus self. And so it talks a lot about pain, and it talks a lot about hardship. And so like being in a hopeless place full of pain is a really big theme on this album. And it's interesting because like there's also a hopeful strand that runs through it. But that's a lot what they talk about is like struggling with yourself. We'll see that more in Reclusion, which is coming up in a little while.
Right now, actually.
Is it the next one?
Yep.
Oh, it's fantastic.
We had to skip a song. The next song, it's very much about, again, being complacent and living your life in a robotic state. We felt like that was a redundant theme, so even though we both love the song, just for time, we're going to have to skip it.
Too bad.
So this song is called Preclusion by Amberlin off their album Cities. We're back on MCR. That was Reclusion by Amberlin. You're listening to The Letter M. I'm your host, Grayden McCashen, and my guest co-host name is...
Adam Loomos, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Sorry, Van couldn't make it today. Van Ferro is usually my co-host. He is in the Spoon Rivers Anthology. It's a production that Moody students are actually putting on. I believe it's in the Alumni Auditorium. I think it's at 7 and 8:30. There are posters all over the place, so you should go check that out. Really excited to see that. As far as on the album to this point, we've dealt with complacency, we've dealt with concepts like grace and stuff in the Unwinding Cable Car, we've talked about depression in Hello Alone, which is pretty powerful, and then
we've talked a lot about, like, remember Godspeed as well, where we've talked about we talked about like learning to, you know, accept responsibility and not just live in a fantasy world.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. This is the way I see it, and I might be wrong because I haven't necessarily bounced this off a lot of people, but there are two things that we really need to be safe on. One is just being miserable, you know, that passion and that drive that we have to fulfill something, that void that we see in the Adjustment Bureau in David Norris's character. That's more Hello Alone, I think. I think
absolutely
depression is a result of realizing that we can't fill that void. The other huge thing that I think God really saves us from, so to speak, is our sin. And that's what this song kind of gets at. So, Adam?
Thoughts on Reclusion?
Thoughts on Reclusion.
I would say, I mean, again, this is a song that I didn't like as much at first because I didn't understand it, right? But as I've looked more at the lyrics and started to listen to it more, I've come to realize I think that this song is about inner demons. You know, it's about how there's parts of ourselves that we don't like. We talk about one of the major lines in the chorus is like, "You're sick. Sick is all the secrets that you deny." You know, and my goodness, that's a powerful line. And man, think about it. Like, how many lies do we tell to protect ourselves? I definitely know I've done it. I know that there are plenty of things in my past, in my sin nature, that I'm not proud of.
To actually say, like, those things that you do, that's how disgusting you are.
Right.
It's easy to say, I don't know. I hear people, and this doesn't even make sense, but people say, and we want to feel like we're different, like we're somehow separate from what we do. Like, that wasn't the real me, that was a bad day or whatever.
Right.
But that's not really the case. Like, I think what you do, especially in the eyes of other people, defines you. And, you know, out of a sinful heart comes sinful action. So you are actually as bad as all the things that you do or think or say.
Right, from the well springs of the heart, the mouth speaks, is I believe what Jesus said, or that might be Proverbs.
Probably both.
I'm getting my Proverbs mixed up with my teachings of our Savior, so, you know. But totally, like, it's like what we do and what we say, like, from what is within a man will come out of a man is kind of the ultimate goal there. And what is within us is you. Yeah. So what is within us is definitely, in a lot of ways, I think, in an unredeemed person with an unredeemed heart and a sin nature, what is in us is oftentimes evil. And what I think he was writing about for a lot of this was how, I don't know, another, it talks about like the skeletons, you know, like, sins like skeletons are so very hard to hide, you know. He talks about like the things in our past we've done which are difficult to bury, difficult to overcome.
Like that annoying truth that people are going to find out how bad you are eventually.
Right. It's like Satan is our accuser, you know, and constantly accusing and saying like, you are a bad person, like this is going to get found out.
One of my favorite lines before we cut to Finn is I just lost it. I have a page of lyrics here. I took all the breaks out of the paragraph so I could fit more on a page because I'm cheap and I don't want to buy paper. You're suffocating me. It's so very hard to breathe. My mask is growing heavy, but I'm forgotten who's beneath. You could take that a couple different ways. Just the front that you put up to, you know, like he's talking about secrets, skeletons in your closet and all that. So the front that we put up, it's kind of hard to maintain and eventually it'll suffocate us and kill us. It talks about inner demons right before that, so maybe the demons are the ones suffocating you.
It could be.
But that's one of the songs, especially if you like had a particularly, if you're feeling a little apathetic about your faith, if you're feeling like you've got things under control, that might be a good song to go take a look at.
Absolutely.
And especially if you know somebody who's not a Christian, they really like this song, it might be a good idea to point out what the song's actually saying and some of the truths behind what the song is actually saying.
Do you want to jump into Finn now?
Yeah,
we're running kind of low on time, as you may or may not know. The next song that we wanted to play is actually almost 9 minutes long, but I think we're going to cut it about halfway.
Oh, yeah.
Because, frankly, that would take up all of our time, and I really want to talk about it. So, most of the good stuff happens in the first half anyway. So, with that said, here is Finn by Anberlin.